I woke up to the sound of rain tapping against my window, soft, steady, and oddly comforting. It had been a while since I felt peaceful waking up. The city felt quieter that morning, and maybe, just maybe, I thought things were finally starting to fall into place. I had been planning this for weeks, going home, seeing my brother again, maybe even making peace with everyone. Tomorrow was Ryan's birthday, and for the first time in years, I wanted to surprise him. He loved surprises. When we were kids, he'd always pretend to hate them, but his eyes told the truth. He lived for that feeling. I made myself coffee, sat near the window, and texted my sister, Laura. She and I hadn't spoken much lately, just occasional check-ins that always felt forced. Still, I thought maybe this time would be different. I typed, "Hey, I was thinking we could do something for Ryan tomorrow, maybe a small surprise." I watched the typing dots appear then disappear. For a few seconds, nothing. Then the phone rang. Laura. Her name flashed on my screen and my stomach tightened. "Hey, Laura," I answered, trying to sound cheerful. "Hey," she replied. Her tone was calm, flat, and slightly distant. I smiled anyway. "So I was thinking of coming tomorrow. Maybe we could bake a cake, get everyone together, do something nice for him?" There was silence. Not the kind where someone's thinking. The kind that feels intentional, like words are being weighed. Then she said, almost too casually, "You missed it." My hand froze around the cup. "Missed what?" I asked. "His birthday," she said. "It was last week. We already celebrated." I blinked, confused. "No, it's tomorrow. The 14th. "It was on the 7th, she said quickly, like she had rehearsed it. "We changed it. He wanted it earlier." Changed it? Since when could someone change their birthday? It didn't make sense. I let out a nervous laugh. "Wait, what? You can't just—" She interrupted. "We did. Everyone came. You didn't." I didn't know what to say. My chest tightened, my throat burned. It felt like someone had punched through the middle of my heart. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I asked quietly. 12. "You've been busy," she replied. "We didn't think you'd want to come." And before I could say anything else, she added, "Anyway, he's not home now. He's gone with Mom and Dad for a few days. Maybe call him when he's back." That was it. No warmth, no hesitation, just a clean dismissal. She hung up, and I was left staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone. For a while, I just sat there, listening to the rain. My coffee had gone cold. I checked. My calendar again. Ryan's birthday had always been the 14th. Always. I tried calling Mom. No answer. Then Dad. Straight to voicemail, one after another. Every call led to silence. And in that silence, the truth started to echo. Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe this was a message. I grabbed my car keys and threw a few things in a bag. I didn't know what I was planning to say when I got there, but I knew I couldn't stay still. I needed to see for myself. The drive home felt endless. The further I got from the city, the heavier the air felt, like the past was waiting for me. Every sign, every road, every tree brought back memories of a time when family meant everything. Ryan and I used to talk about leaving this place together one day. We swore we'd never let anything come between us, but something did. And now, the only thing between us was silence. When I finally pulled up to the house, it looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling, the front yard untended. But what caught my eye wasn't the decay. It was the remains of something brighter. A few sagging balloons still clung to the porch rail. One had "Happy Birthday" faded across it, half deflated. On the doorstep, there was confetti, small, colorful pieces of celebration that weren't meant for me. My chest ached. I stepped forward and peered through the window. The dining table inside was still messy, cake crumbs, empty cups, and one photo frame turned face down. I knocked once, then twice. The door opened slowly, and there stood Laura. Her face didn't show surprise, just inconvenience. "You came," she said, folding her arms. "I wanted to see Ryan," I replied quietly. "He's not here. Went away with Mom and Dad." She leaned on the doorframe, blocking the entrance just enough to make her point. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I asked again, this time steady, almost cold. "We didn't think you'd care," she said. There it was. The sentence that burned deeper than all the rest. "We didn't think you'd care." She turned, ready to close the door. But before she could, I asked, "What really happened, Laura?" Her hand froze on the door handle. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean. Why was I left out?" She smiled, just slightly, that sharp, knowing kind of smile people wear when they know something you don't. "Some things are better left alone," she said, and shut the door. I stood there for a long time. The rain had stopped, but the world still felt wet and heavy. That night I stayed in my old car, parked near the house. I scrolled through old pictures of Ryan and me, two kids with dreams bigger than our small town. Then a message appeared on my phone. It was from Ryan. "Wish you were there." Just 5 words. No context, no emojis. But it said everything. I typed a reply. "I wish I was too." Then I erased it, because something inside me whispered that whatever happened at that party wasn't just a birthday. It was the beginning of a truth my family didn't want me to see. And now I wasn't leaving until I found it. When I woke up the next morning, the world outside was still gray, a mix of mist and leftover rain. I hadn't really slept, just drifted in and out of restless thoughts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that house, those balloons, Laura's face. I stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching beneath my shoes, and walked toward the porch again. The air smelled faintly of sugar and something else, something spoiled. There was still a piece of cake on the plate near the window, half eaten, the frosting smudged like it had been touched and forgotten. I pushed the door open this time. No one stopped me. The house was quiet, almost hollow. My footsteps echoed across the wooden floor. The air felt thick, like the walls themselves were holding a secret. The dining table was still there, cluttered, with cups, half-burnt candles, and torn wrapping paper. I ran my fingers over a piece of confetti stuck to the table. It had a faint stain on it, red, not from icing, but something darker. I tried not to think about it. I found Ryan's gift pile in the corner, sweaters, books, a few envelopes. But one stood out, a small, plain white box with no name, just the faintest fingerprint smudge on the lid. I opened it, expecting a trinket or card, but it was empty, completely empty. Yet inside, there was an odd scent, faint, like smoke. Then I noticed something on the floor near the cabinet, a family photo. I picked it up. It was from the party, clearly taken recently. Everyone was there, smiling under string lights. Except Ryan. He wasn't in the photo. My heart skipped. How could his own birthday photo not have him? I turned the picture over, and there was writing in Laura's handwriting. "Best day ever." My fingers trembled slightly. I looked around the room again, more carefully this time, noticing things that didn't match. 2 plates missing from the set, a broken glass in the sink, muddy footprints leading to the back door. I followed them out to the yard. The grass was wet, the earth still soft. There were marks near the fence, like something heavy had been dragged or moved. My throat tightened. I crouched down and touched the dirt. It was fresh. Then a sound, faint, from inside. I turned sharply. Someone was upstairs. I climbed the staircase slowly, my hand brushing against the old wooden rail. It creaked, groaned under pressure, like it didn't want me there. The door to Ryan's room was slightly open. Inside, the air was colder. His guitar was leaning against the wall, a few strings snapped. On his desk, an old photo frame lay face down, the same one I saw last night. I turned it over. It was me and him. The glass was cracked straight through the middle, splitting us apart. There was also a piece of paper beside it, a note half burnt at the edges. Only one line was still legible. "Don't let her find out." My pulse quickened. Who wrote it? Who was her? Laura, Mom? Or ain't me? Just then, I heard a faint noise downstairs, the sound of a car door closing. I rushed to the window. Laura's car was back in the driveway. I could see her step out, holding a bag of groceries, calm, composed, like nothing had happened. But the moment she looked up toward Ryan's window, toward me, her expression froze. She knew I'd been inside. And in that split second, before she turned away, I saw something in her eyes. Not fear, not guilt. Something colder. The look of someone guarding a truth too dangerous to speak. That's when I knew. Whatever happened at that birthday wasn't just about me being left out. It was about Ryan, and something my family had tried very hard to bury beneath the sweetness of cake and celebration. Something they never expected me to find. The afternoon light filtered weakly through the curtains, throwing pale gold lines across the living room. I stood there for a long moment, trying to remember when this house stopped feeling like home. Everything was still in its place. The couch with its worn edges, the old wooden clock that had ticked the same rhythm for years. And yet, it all felt wrong. There was a stillness here, not the kind that comes from peace, but the kind that follows a lie. I began to notice things that didn't match my memory. The family portraits on the wall, they'd been rearranged. Ryan's graduation photo, the one he loved most, was missing. In its place, a new picture of Laura smiling beside our parents hung proudly. I moved closer. The frame still smelled like fresh varnish. Something twisted inside me. On the coffee table sat a photo album. I opened it, flipping through pages of birthdays, Christmas mornings, family dinners. But as I looked closer, I realized the pattern. Every image of me with Ryan was gone. Neatly removed. The edges where the photos were peeled off were too clean, too intentional. I could feel my hands shaking. I closed the album and leaned back, staring at the faces on the wall. Smiling, frozen, deceitful. The silence broke with a faint buzz from my phone. A message from an unknown number. It read, "You shouldn't have come back." My heart jumped. I looked around the room, half expecting someone to be watching. Outside, the street was quiet. Inside, the clock kept ticking. I opened my old phone, the one I'd left here years ago in a drawer under the TV stand. It still held old messages, but something was different. I remembered hundreds of conversations with Ryan, our late-night talks, voice notes, jokes. Now, most of them were gone. Entire threads wiped clean, like someone had gone through and deleted the proof of our bond. But one chat remained untouched. The last one we had, it ended with his message. "Don't believe everything they tell you." That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks before his birthday. The air grew heavier. I heard the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the gentle creak of the house settling. Or was it something else? I turned my head slightly. There were footsteps. Slow, cautious, upstairs. I waited listening. One step, then another, and then silence. I forced myself to breathe and whispered his name. Ryan? Even though I knew there'd be no answer. The house swallowed my voice like it didn't belong here anymore. That's when I noticed something near the corner of the room. A faint reflection under the rug. I knelt down and lifted it. Beneath, a small glass shard. I held it up. It was part of a picture frame, cracked clean through, with a bit of tape still on the edge. A piece of a memory someone wanted gone. I followed my gut and checked behind the TV cabinet. And there they were. A bundle of old photos, torn, hidden. My breath caught as I shuffled through them. In one, Ryan was sitting beside me, hand on my shoulder, both of us laughing. And in the background, Laura stood by the doorway, watching us with a look that wasn't happiness. It was envy. Every photo had her in the corner, watching, distant, always behind us. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Suddenly, I understood. These weren't ghosts in the house. They were memories she'd tried to erase, and traces of her watching every one of them. As I gathered the photos, something fell out from between the pages. A small folded note, yellowed at the edges. I unfolded it slowly. It was Ryan's handwriting. "If anything happens, look in the attic. Don't trust them." My hands went cold. For a long time I stood there frozen, the ticking of the clock louder than ever. Then I looked up toward the ceiling, the faint outline of the attic door, half hidden in the shadows. The air felt alive, like the house was holding its breath. I whispered under my breath, "What did they do to you, Ryan?" And for the first time, the silence felt like an answer I wasn't ready to hear. The attic stairs groaned under my weight as I pulled the rope and climbed up. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the air smelled like time itself had been trapped up here. Old boxes, broken lamps, stacks of forgotten things. All the things my family never wanted to throw away but didn't want to see either. It was cold, even though it was mid-afternoon. The kind of cold that doesn't come from the weather, but from absence. The kind you feel when someone you love leaves, and their silence fills the room instead. I ran my hand over the boxes, brushing away dust, searching for anything that looked new, anything that didn't belong. My eyes caught something at the far end of the attic, a small wooden chest with a brass lock. It wasn't locked anymore. The key was still inside. My breath hitched as I opened it. Inside were things that didn't make sense together. Ryan's watch, a few of his notebooks, an old photo of us, and a bundle of envelopes tied with red string. His handwriting, I'd know it anywhere. The first letter on top was addressed to me. My name, plain, careful. My heart started to race as I unfolded it. "If you're reading this, it means you came back. I wasn't sure you ever would. I tried to tell you what was happening, but I didn't want to drag you into it. I thought I could fix it myself. I was wrong." I felt my throat tighten. I kept reading. "You always believed the best in everyone. In Laura, in Mom, in Dad. You thought our family's cracks were just misunderstandings. But they weren't. They were lies. And I was part of them." My hands went cold. "Do you remember the scholarship money Dad said went missing years ago? He didn't lose it. He gave it to Laura, and I knew. I helped cover it up. I thought I was protecting the family, but all I did was bury the truth." The words blurred as tears stung my eyes. "When you left, everything fell apart. They blamed you, said you were the one who divided us. I let them believe it. I didn't have the courage to defend you. I thought silence was safer. But silence became my punishment." I stopped breathing for a moment. The Ryan I remembered, kind, loyal, my best friend, was slipping through these words like smoke. He had been living with guilt, hiding things from me, protecting lies I didn't even know existed. They planned something for my birthday. Not a surprise, a deal. Laura called it a fresh start, but it felt like a goodbye. I think they're trying to erase everything, including you. If you ever find this letter, don't ask them for answers. They'll only give you the version they rehearsed. The last line made my heart stop. Whatever happens, don't trust the smiles. Not even mine. I dropped the letter, my fingers numb. The paper floated down, landing beside a cracked photo frame, one of me and Ryan as kids, holding sparklers in the yard. I stared at it for a long time. He had known. All along, he'd played both sides. The brother who comforted me, and the son who protected their secrets. I sank onto the attic floor, the letter trembling in my hands. Part of me wanted to hate him. But another part, the part that still saw the boy who used to make me laugh until I cried, just felt broken. He hadn't betrayed me out of cruelty. He'd done it out of fear. Fear of losing them. Fear of facing what we'd all become. And yet the weight of his final warning clung to me. Don't trust the smiles. Downstairs, I heard the front door open. Laura's voice called faintly, "You're still here?" I wiped my face quickly, folded the letter, and slipped it into my pocket. When I turned toward the attic steps again, the truth felt heavier than the air around me. The brother I thought I knew was gone, and the family I thought I belonged to, I wasn't sure it ever really existed. That night I couldn't sleep. The house felt heavier than ever, like every wall carried the weight of words never said. I lay on the old couch in the living room, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of Ryan's letter. His words kept echoing in my head. They're trying to erase everything, including you. Erase me? How do you erase someone you share blood with? As the clock struck midnight, something about the stillness pulled me back in time. Back to when things were simpler, or at least when I believed they were. I was 10. Ryan was 13. We used to play in the yard until sunset, pretending the world outside our fence didn't exist. He was the quiet one, always sketching things in his notebook. Old trees, clouds, sometimes our family. I remember one summer evening, Mom and Dad were arguing in the kitchen. Their voices carried through the house like breaking glass. We sat on the back steps, our knees touching. Ryan turned to me and said softly, "When grown-ups fight, it's not always about what they say. It's about what they hide." I didn't understand then. But now, those words feel like a warning I should have listened to. There were little things even back then. The way Mom would get defensive when I asked about money. The way Dad's voice turned sharp when Ryan talked about college. The way Laura always watched, listening more than speaking, like she was storing every secret for later use. I remember one day Ryan came home with a scholarship letter. He was so proud. He'd worked hard for it. But Dad looked uneasy. He congratulated him with a half smile and said, "We'll see if that's the right path for you." That night I overheard them. Ryan's voice cracked, angry and desperate. "You said you wanted me to do something good. Now that I have, you're scared of what it means." Dad didn't shout. He just said something that stayed with me for years. Success isn't worth it if it makes the family look divided. Back then I thought it was about unity. Now I know it was about control. Another flash came back, years later, the night before I left home for good. We were sitting around the dinner table, pretending everything was fine. Laura was smiling too much. Mom kept asking me about my plans, but her tone felt rehearsed. Then Ryan reached for my hand under the table and whispered, "Don't argue. Just go." I looked at him, confused. He avoided my eyes. That was the last real conversation we had. As I lay on the couch, those memories came alive like ghosts whispering in the dark. Every smile. Every silence. Every moment I'd brushed off as family tension, they weren't random. They were warnings. Ryan's guilt. Laura's envy. Dad's pride. Mom's denial. And me. The one who kept believing that love could fix it all. Maybe Ryan's silence wasn't cowardice. Maybe it was survival. Because in this family, truth wasn't just unwanted, it was dangerous. The wooden floor creaked suddenly. I sat up. The air felt colder, heavier. For a split second, I thought I saw movement by the hallway mirror, a shadow that looked too human to be imagination. I blinked and it was gone. But my reflection stayed, eyes tired, face pale, and behind me the faint outline of the living room, frozen in time. This house didn't just hold memories. It fed on them. And every whisper from the past was leading me to one truth. Ryan hadn't just been protecting the family. He'd been protecting me. By morning, I felt like the walls themselves were watching me. The house had that uneasy quiet. Not peace, but aftermath. The kind of silence that follows when something has been scrubbed clean, too clean, like the truth had been bleached out of every corner. I went back to the dining room. The decorations were still there. Wilted balloons, half-burnt candles, and the banner that read, "Happy Birthday, Ryan." But the more I stared at it, the more it looked wrong. The banner letters weren't centered. The color theme, gold and navy, wasn't Ryan's style. He hated fancy parties. Even the cake, sitting stale on the counter, had a name written in icing that looked smudged, almost rewritten. I opened the fridge and saw rows of untouched food, salads, desserts, trays of drinks, all labeled reserved. Who reserves food at a family birthday? Something about it felt staged, rehearsed. I started searching through the kitchen drawers looking for, I didn't even know what. Maybe a clue. maybe proof that I wasn't losing my mind. That's when I found it. A folder wedged behind the microwave, half hidden under takeout menus. It had Ryan's handwriting on the cover. Just one word, blueprint. Inside were printed documents, floor plans, financial statements, and a typed letter with a government logo at the top. My hands trembled as I read it. It wasn't about his birthday at all. It was about a proposal. Ryan had been working on something, a community housing project in our old neighborhood, using funds that our father had donated years ago. Except, those funds had never gone to charity. They were still in the family's name. He'd been planning to expose it. My pulse pounded. I flipped through the pages. There were meeting notes, dated 2 days before his birthday. Names, times, locations. One name stood out, Laura. She'd signed as a witness. But that wasn't possible. She told everyone the meeting was canceled, that Ryan wanted to spend the day with family. Only now I could see the truth. The party was the meeting. Just not the kind Ryan had planned. It wasn't a celebration. It was an intervention. A quiet gathering of people who wanted to stop him. The next document hit me like a punch. An email printout. From Dad to Laura. If he insists on going public, make sure it doesn't reach her. She'll take his side and then we'll lose both. I dropped the papers. My breath hitched. Lose both. They meant me. I stumbled back, my hand gripping the table for balance. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Ryan had been right. They'd rehearsed every smile, every lie, every word. The birthday had been the perfect cover. And I hadn't just been left out. I'd been excluded on purpose. A faint sound broke through my thoughts, the click of a door upstairs. Laura's footsteps. I quickly gathered the papers and stuffed them back into the folder, slipping it under my jacket. My heart hammered as I stepped toward the hallway, pretending to fix the curtain when she came down. Couldn't sleep? She asked, her tone casual, but her eyes scanning the table. I was just looking around, I said quietly. Her lips curved slightly. You shouldn't dig into old things? Ryan wouldn't want that. It was the way she said his name, soft, careful, almost rehearsed, that made something in me snap. You mean the Ryan whose party wasn't a party? I asked. Her smile faltered for a second. Then she looked away and murmured, You don't know what you're talking about. But I did. I knew enough to realize my brother's last day wasn't a celebration of his life. It was the day they shut him down. As she walked past me, I caught a glimpse of something in her hand, a flash drive. She slipped it into her pocket quickly, pretending I hadn't noticed. The same flash drive that had been on Ryan's desk in the old photo. I didn't say a word. But inside, I knew. Whatever truth Ryan tried to protect was in that drive. And Laura was making sure it never saw daylight. That night, as I sat alone again in the dark, I whispered into the silence. Ryan, what did you try to tell me? The air didn't answer, but deep down I could feel it. The party that never was had been the moment everything ended. And I wasn't just here to uncover it. I was here to finish what he started. The walls of the house seemed to whisper that night, not with words, but with the kind of silence that only guilt could build. I sat in my old room, the one that still smelled faintly of old paint and broken promises, trying to make sense of what I had just discovered. My brother's party was a lie, but what came next shattered me even more. I found it by accident, an old family group chat on my father's phone that he'd forgotten to delete. The messages were short, coded, but clear enough to see the pattern. My sister had been the one to suggest it. My mother had agreed. And my father? He had given the final nod. They had all known, every single one of them. It started with something small, money. My brother had trusted them with a large portion of his savings to help manage the family's business accounts while he worked abroad. I remember how proud he was when he told me over the phone. He thought they'd finally seen him as responsible, that he could make a difference. But behind his back, they moved that money, bit by bit, into another account. An account that didn't have his name on it. When I confronted my mother about it, she froze. Her eyes didn't move, but her fingers twisted the edge of her apron like she was kneading guilt into it. She didn't deny it. She just said, "You don't understand what your brother was doing. He wasn't who you thought." But I did understand. I understood more than she realized. My brother had been trying to fix what years of bad decisions had broken. He wanted to buy back the old house my father had sold in a desperate attempt to save face in the community. He wanted to restore our name. But instead of supporting him, they'd taken his trust and turned it into a weapon. My sister had always been jealous of him. His calm, his warmth, the way he could make everyone laugh even when things were falling apart. And my parents, they'd always chosen sides, always built walls instead of bridges. The night of his party, they didn't celebrate him. They buried his truth. They divided what he'd built. And when he found out he didn't confront them, he disappeared. That was the real reason I had been left out. Because if I'd known, I would have sided with him. As I sat there with my father's phone in my trembling hands, I realized something cruel. Betrayal isn't just when strangers stab you in the back. It's when the people you share blood with do it and still expect you to come home for dinner. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the screen until the battery died, knowing that from this moment on, there was no family to return to. Only truth, and the revenge it deserved. It was late, past midnight, when I decided to look through my brother's old belongings one last time. His phone had been sitting in a drawer in my parents' study, untouched since the day he left. The screen was cracked, the case worn out, but when I pressed the power button, it still came alive. His wallpaper appeared, the three of us, smiling in front of the lake house. The picture felt like a lie now. I didn't know what I was searching for. Maybe a clue, maybe a reason. But then, as I scrolled through his emails and drafts, I saw it, an unsent message. The subject line read, "Before it's too late." My hands shook as I opened it. It was addressed to me. "Hey you, I know you've been busy and probably tired of all the family drama, but I need you to hear this from me. Things aren't right here. They've been hiding things. Things I never thought Mom and Dad could do. I trusted them with everything, and I think I made a mistake. I can't fix it alone. Please come home. I need you." That was it. No goodbye, no signature. Just those words. But the timestamp caught my eye, the night before the so-called birthday party. The night before everything changed. Then I checked the sent folder. Nothing. He never sent it. I thought maybe he had second thoughts. Maybe he'd gotten scared or changed his mind. But when I dug deeper into the phone settings, something else appeared. The deleted items log. And there, buried among old photos and random app files, was a name I didn't expect. My sister's. The log showed she had accessed his phone that same night, the same hour the draft was created. She must have seen the message and deleted it before he could send it. My throat tightened. I could almost picture it. My brother, falling asleep after writing it, planning to talk to me the next day. My sister finding it first, panicking, erasing the last bridge between us before it could reach me. That one message could have changed everything. I could have come home sooner. I could have stopped what happened. I stared at the glowing screen until it dimmed out, and I whispered into the darkness, "You tried to warn me, didn't you?" A single unsent message. That was all it took to prove how deep their betrayal went. He hadn't forgotten me. He hadn't abandoned me. He was silenced. By the very people who called themselves family, morning came heavy and silent, as if the house itself knew what was about to happen. I hadn't slept, not after finding that unsent message. My thoughts were loud, restless, burning holes through the lies that had held this family together for years. Laura was in the kitchen when I walked in, humming softly, pretending nothing was wrong. The smell of coffee filled the air, but even that familiar scent felt poisoned now. She turned when she heard my footsteps, her smile fragile, the kind you wear when you already know you're caught. "Morning," she said, voice calm, too calm. I placed my brother's phone on the counter between us. The cracked screen reflected her face, pale, tired, and guilty. "Why did you delete his message?" I asked. My voice came out lower than I expected, almost a whisper, but it carried all the weight I'd been holding. Her expression flickered. "What are you talking about?" Don't do that, I snapped. Don't act like you don't know. He wrote to me. He asked for help. You opened his phone that night. I saw the access log. You deleted his message before he could send it. She froze. For a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear, maybe shame. But then she looked down, shaking her head. You don't understand, she said softly. He was losing it, okay? He was about to destroy everything. I had to protect what? I interrupted, stepping closer. Protect yourself? Protect Mom and Dad's lies? Her eyes finally met mine, and there it was. The truth she'd been burying all this time. Tears welled up, but she didn't let them fall. You think I wanted any of this? He found out about the money, about Dad's deal. He said he'd go public. It would have ruined us. Mom begged me to stop him. I thought if I just delayed things, maybe we could talk him out of it. I could barely breathe. By deleting his message? She closed her eyes as if my words cut straight through her. I didn't mean for it to go that far. He wasn't supposed to— Don't say it, I whispered. Don't you dare. The air between us was thick. Part guilt, part anger, part grief. The kettle started to whistle on the stove, sharp and piercing, breaking the silence like a scream neither of us could voice. For a long moment, we just stood there, two sisters divided by a single act that changed everything. Finally, I spoke again, my voice trembling. You didn't just delete a message, Laura. You erased the only chance I had to save him. You made sure I was too late. She looked away, her face breaking. I know, she whispered. And I've been living with that every single day. But I wasn't sure if that was regret, or just relief that her secret was finally out. And as I turned to leave the room, I realized this wasn't the storm. Not yet. This was just the moment before it hit. The fragile calm that always comes before everything finally breaks. It all came crashing down that evening. The truth, the guilt, the carefully crafted lies that had held my family together for years. Every whisper, every strange look, every piece of the puzzle finally fit into place, forming a picture I could barely stand to look at. After confronting Laura, I couldn't stay silent anymore. I gathered everyone, my parents, my sister, in the living room. The same room where we once celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, everything that made us feel like a family. But this time it felt like a courtroom. Mom sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa, her hands folded like she was praying for forgiveness that hadn't been asked for yet. Dad stood near the window, silent, arms crossed, his eyes fixed on the fading light outside. Laura lingered by the doorway, pale and trembling. I held my brother's phone in my hand, the cracked screen now a symbol of everything broken between us. I know what happened that night, I said quietly. The night you called it a birthday party. No one spoke. The clock ticked behind me, slow and cruel. You didn't throw a party, I continued. You held a meeting. He found out about the deal, the one Dad made behind his back. The land wasn't just his, was it? You'd signed everything under your names. Mom's face twitched, a silent confession. He tried to stop you, I said, my voice rising now. He was angry, confused. He wanted to tell me, warn me. But you stopped him. You told him I wouldn't understand. You told him I'd take his side. And when he refused to go along, you called that night a celebration, just to keep the neighbors from asking questions. Laura covered her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. We didn't mean for him to leave, she whispered. Dad finally turned, his voice rough and distant. He was stubborn. He thought he was doing the right thing. But he didn't see the whole picture. We were protecting what's ours. What's ours? I shot back. You mean his share? His life's work? His dream? You call that protection? Silence again, the kind that hurts more than shouting. Mom's eyes glistened. He wasn't supposed to find out, she murmured. We just needed time. The company was failing. We had no choice. You always had a choice, I said softly. You just chose money over him. Over me. No one moved. The air was heavy with everything we'd never said, everything they'd buried under excuses and fear. Then Laura whispered, barely audible. He came to the house that morning. Before the party. He wanted to see you. He said he'd already sent the message, but when he found out I'd deleted it, he walked out. Said he was done with all of us. Her voice broke completely. We thought he'd come back. We didn't know that was the last time we'd ever see him. I felt the world tilt for a moment. That sickening drop when the truth hits too late. My chest tightened, and for a second I couldn't breathe. All those years of silence, of thinking he'd forgotten me, of blaming him for walking away, when all along, it was them. My own family, I looked at each of them, the people who had raised me, fed me, loved me in their own twisted way, and realized I didn't know them at all. That night, I said finally, you didn't just lose him. You lost me too. And as I turned toward the door, I knew this time I wasn't leaving out of anger. I was leaving to reclaim what they'd stolen, the truth, my peace, and the brother they had erased from our lives with one cruel lie. The so-called birthday wasn't a celebration. It was a funeral for everything real in this family. And now, all that was left were ghosts and the quiet echoes of a love that didn't survive the truth. Revenge didn't come to me in a burst of rage. It came quietly, like the slow ticking of a clock, steady and deliberate. After that night, I stopped shouting. I stopped trying to make them understand. I realized some people only hear the truth when it costs them something they can't replace. So I decided to let their own lies do the talking. I started with the papers my brother had left behind, the contracts, the bank transfers, the fake signatures. Every document that proved what they'd done. I spent nights scanning them, organizing them, piecing together a trail so clear no one could deny it. Then, I sent everything. Not to the police, not to them, but to the people who mattered most to them. Their business partners, their friends, the ones who had always admired our perfect family. I didn't need to add a single word. The truth was loud enough on its own. It spread quietly at first, like smoke under a closed door. Then faster. Calls started coming in. Deals began to crumble. Their company's reputation fell apart within weeks. Mom tried to call me, dozens of times. I never answered. Dad sent long messages, half apologies, half accusations, but I read none of them. And Laura, she came to my door one evening, crying, saying she couldn't sleep, that everything had fallen apart. But all I could say was, now you know how it feels. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to make threats. They had built their world on deceit, and I had simply removed the silence protecting it. The day the investigation went public, I visited the lake house, the one from our old photo. It was empty now. Dust floated in the air like memories that refused to settle. I stood where my brother once stood, staring at the water and whispered, I did it your way, quietly. For the first time, I felt peace, not because I had won, but because the truth finally breathed again. I didn't destroy them. I simply reminded the world who they really were. And sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's calm. It's patient. It's justice, spoken without a single word. The silence came back, but this time it wasn't peaceful. It was heavier, colder, like a presence that lingered in every corner of the house I once called home. After the truth came out, everything fell apart exactly as I knew it would. The company was gone. The family name, once spoken with pride, now carried a quiet shame. Neighbors stopped visiting. Friends stopped calling. The house stood still, a monument to everything that greed and deceit had destroyed. But even in victory, something inside me felt hollow. I went back one last time, to pack the few things I still had there. Old photographs, some books, a few keepsakes of my brother. The air inside was different now. No voices, no laughter, no footsteps. Just echoes of what used to be. In the living room, I saw Mom sitting alone on the sofa, the same spot where I'd confronted them weeks ago. She didn't look up when I entered. Her eyes were distant, fixed on nothing. Dad wasn't there. He'd left town to sort things out, though we both knew he was just running away. Laura hadn't spoken to me since the day she came crying at my door. For a moment, I wanted to say something, To tell Mom I hadn't done it out of hate, that it was never about revenge for me. It was about truth, but the words wouldn't come. Maybe because part of me knew that even truth, when spoken too late, can still hurt the innocent parts of what we once loved. I picked up a framed picture from the table, one of all of us smiling at the lake house. My brother's arm was around me. He looked happy. That image, frozen in time, was a reminder of everything that was pure before lies poisoned it all. I put the frame down and whispered, "You got your justice, didn't you?" But it cost us everything. The silence answered back, heavy, suffocating, final. When I walked out of that house, I realized justice doesn't always heal. Sometimes it leaves behind an emptiness where love once lived. And as I closed the door for the last time, I felt the weight of every unspoken word, every broken bond, every truth that came too late. Justice had been served, but peace was still a long way away. I sat by the window that evening, the last of the daylight slipping through the curtains, turning everything gold for a fleeting moment. A blank sheet of paper lay before me, and for the first time in years, I didn't know how to begin. It had been months since the truth came out. Months since I'd walked away from that house for good. Life had moved forward, at least on the surface. New city, new routine, new people. But every night, when the world quieted down, I still heard his voice. Not clearly, just faintly. The way memories whisper when you're half between dreaming and remembering. So that night, I picked up a pen and began to write. Not because I thought he'd read it, but because I needed to say the words I'd carried for far too long. Hey, I don't even know where to start. I guess I should have been there, sooner, louder, braver. You tried to reach out and I wasn't there to answer. I thought you'd given up on me, but the truth is, it was the other way around. I gave up on us too easily. The ink smudged slightly where my hand trembled. I kept writing anyway. They lied to me. They told me things I wanted to believe. That you were angry, that you didn't care, that you'd moved on. But I see it now. You were trying to protect me even when I didn't deserve it. And maybe that's what love really is. Doing the right thing even when it breaks you. I paused, looking out the window. The street below was quiet, the kind of calm that comes only after a storm. I thought revenge would fix everything. I thought if I exposed them, if I made them feel what I felt, I'd finally have peace. But all it did was leave me with silence. The kind that echoes, the kind that reminds you what's gone. My throat tightened as I wrote the last few lines. I miss you. Not the version in old photos, you. The one who teased me when I cried, who stayed up late listening to my rants, who always believed I could do more. I hope wherever you are, you found the peace I couldn't. I signed it simply, Love, always, your sister. When I finished, I folded the letter carefully and placed it inside an envelope, though I had nowhere to send it. Instead, I walked to the lake, the same one from our childhood where everything once felt simple. The moon was high, the water still. I held the envelope for a long moment before letting it drift into the water. It floated gently, spinning once before sinking beneath the surface, carrying my words to wherever he might be. And for the first time since it all began, I didn't cry. I just breathed, deeply, quietly, as if I could finally let go. Some letters aren't meant to be sent. They're meant to be written, so the silence inside you can finally rest. The morning after everything ended didn't feel like a victory. It felt empty. The kind of quiet that settles after a storm has torn everything apart. When you step outside and realize nothing looks the same, but at least the air is clear. I woke up in a small apartment far from home. The sun was just rising, painting the walls in soft light. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wake up to tension or secrets, or the weight of unspoken guilt pressing down on my chest. There was just silence, clean, light, almost peaceful. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching people pass by. Strangers, ordinary lives moving forward, untouched by betrayal or loss. I used to envy people like that, the ones who didn't carry ghosts wherever they went. But now I just felt grateful, because I was finally one of them. Someone trying in small steps to start over, The house I grew up in was gone from my life. Sold, emptied, erased from the family's name after the truth spread. I didn't go back. I couldn't. That house had already become a graveyard for memories. Laughter that meant nothing, smiles built on lies, birthdays that were never really celebrations. But I carried one thing from that place, my brother's watch. It was old, scratched at the edges, and had stopped working years ago. I didn't fix it. Somehow I didn't want to. Maybe because it reminded me that some things are meant to stay frozen in time, like the people we lose before we're ready to say goodbye. As I stood there, I realized revenge had never been the end. It was just a door, one that opened to an emptier, quieter kind of freedom. Justice had been served, yes, but it came with scars that wouldn't fade. Yet for the first time, I could live with that. I walked outside, letting the morning wind brush against my face. The city was awake, cars honking, people talking, life moving forward. I took a deep breath and it didn't hurt anymore. Not like before. I thought about him and my brother and whispered, "It's over now." Not in sorrow, but in peace. Because somewhere deep down, I knew he'd want that. Not vengeance, not regret. Just peace. And as I walked down that street, leaving behind everything that once defined me, I realized that endings aren't always tragic. Sometimes they're just quiet beginnings in disguise. The day after everything ended wasn't about loss anymore. It was about letting go. And finally learning how to live again. Looking back now, it's strange to think how something as simple as being forgotten could change everything. I used to believe betrayal was the worst thing a person could experience. The sting of being lied to, of being left out, of realizing love wasn't what you thought it was. But what truly breaks you isn't the betrayal itself. It's the silence that follows it. When my family turned their backs on me, I thought I'd never recover. I thought the emptiness would consume me. But time and truth have a strange way of healing you. Slowly, painfully, they strip away what's fake and leave you with what's real. Yourself. I learned that forgiveness isn't something you give to others. It's something you give to yourself. Because carrying anger is like drinking poison and waiting for someone else to fall. I spent years holding on to the hurt, replaying the lies, searching for answers that would never come. Until one day, I realized I didn't need them anymore. The apology, the closure, none of it mattered. What mattered was that I had survived. Being forgotten taught me strength I never knew I had. It taught me that love built on control or guilt isn't love at all. It's dependency dressed as devotion. And that sometimes, the people who hurt you most are the ones you once trusted to protect you. But their betrayal doesn't define your worth. I also learned something about truth. It doesn't always set you free right away. Sometimes it breaks you first. It tears apart the illusions you've built, forces you to face pain you've buried, and leaves you standing in the ruins of what you thought your life was. But if you're patient, if you let the silence speak, the truth eventually becomes light. It shows you who you are when there's nothing left to hide behind. There's a kind of peace that only comes after the storm, when you stop fighting to be understood and simply start being. That's where I am now. No revenge, no hate, just quiet acceptance. I may never get back what I lost, but I found something else. Myself. So what did I learn from being forgotten? That sometimes being left behind is the universe's way of pulling you forward. That the people who walk away make space for the ones who are meant to stay. And that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about learning how to rebuild, softer but wiser, wounded but still standing. I may have been forgotten by them, but I will never forget what it taught me. That even in the silence of betrayal, the heart still learns how to speak again, quietly, truthfully, and with love.